I believe that means we are live. Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? I am really pumped to do this thing, this Accountability Buddies in action with my friend and cohort here. Um, First, we want to just pull up and see if there's anybody in the chat.
You're doing great at navigating all this. I'm literally just like looking around all of my screens going, where is anything?
Yes. So, if anybody is joining us from YouTube or Facebook and you want to leave a comment just to say hi, go ahead and do that, and we can put your chats up on the screen. But let's do a little bit of introduction. Oh, I see you. There you go. Um,
Nice.
that's fun. Awesome. Oh, and Corinna, hi. Good
Hi,
morning in the
Corina.
Pacific Northwest. Awesome. Cool. Oh, goodness. So many fun buttons. Uh, Wonderful. All right. Maybe we can kick it off with a round of introductions.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Rafi Mendoza, for those of you who don't know who I am. And I am the founder of Co-Create, where I offer one-to-one coaching and a community membership for artists and creatives. And my goal and overarching intention for anything I do is to empower you guys to have the confidence and the motivation to put your work out in the world with no apology and be ready to be seen and loved for your art, because creativity in my books is the highest currency, and it's what has us really connect to our spirits as human beings, and it's what has us to connect to each other. So that's why I do what I do. And um, I'm really keen to build a community around that, not least because I want that community because I don't want to be sat on my own in my office wondering what to do with my art.
Yes. Yes. And then describe what kind of art do you do?
So I'm a painter primarily. And, in the ideal world, if, I had like a really big studio with all the accoutrements, I love to work in like big abstract oil paintings. But I do also explore other forms and smaller forms of art. But at the moment, I'm really into watercolors just because of the practicality. You've got like the tiny things, stick it up, watercolor, you leave it for 3 hours and it dries up, and then you put water on it, it's wet again. It's great. And and so it makes having a regular creative practice really accessible. So I'm a fan of exploring mediums like that, even if it's not like your first love. It's worth having the detour and the other affairs just to see what's possible.
That's amazing. Yes. I love that. Love that.
Yeah.
And I'm Suzanne. I'm Suzanne Yeda. I run a community called the Creative Spirals, and I call it the Accountability for Creative Weirdos. And I also run some creative accountability to make sure that people aren't leaving their creativity on the back burner, which is the certain death. For me, I also have ADHD, and I kind of in my head uh, see it the same as, like, if I buy vegetables and leave it in the crisper in the refrigerator, it's done. Like, I will never see it again. I will just, like, it's invisible to me, and I don't want people to leave their creativity in a drawer that just never gets open. So I think the back burner is essentially like that drawer. So I'm a songwriter, musician, also a writer and a poet. And I too wanted to create a community because I needed it for myself. And Rafi and I had met in similar communities running online businesses and community engagement kind of circles, and realized, wait, we do like very similar things but in different ways. So we thought it would be really fun to collaborate and to join forces to really get people inspired to do their creative visions. And I'm also really curious if there's anybody watching. I know there's a couple of you out there. What your creative thing is, if whatever if it's a medium or if it's a project, something that you want to create in this world. Drop it in the comments, and we'll show people what you're up to. Yeah, so Rafi, we are doing this accountability buddy in action, and I'm curious: have you had accountability buddies before? What's an accountability buddy? What's your take on accountability partner?
Sure. So just before I get into that, I just want to say something about the kind of synergistic nature of how we met. Because it was like, so Co-Create is a fairly new business, right? And so a few months ago, I was doing a lot of research, and I don't normally like sign up for a lot of freebies and this kind of thing because I don't do a lot with them. You know, at the end, there's only so much that you can invest your time and energy into. But I signed up for a few summits and a few bundles because I was doing some research about like what were people doing with their businesses, what kind of communities are kind of building themselves, because communities have a way of being quite self-organizing. And on a practical marketing level, I was also researching how are people crafting their message and what kind of lead magnets people were doing. And so I signed up for a whole bunch of stuff because I was doing that research. And like maybe like I signed up to like 100 things, and Susanna was part of like 30 of those things. And I was like, what, why is this girl following me around? And then and you kind of just have to listen to these kind of like signs from the universe. It's like we kind of just like had to meet. And um and so we did. And after a couple of conversations, there was something so cool about our complementary energies. Because like I think Susanna wrote a post about this, but I'm quite intuitive in how I work,
Mhm.
and I really kind of like focus on like the person to person connection, and I relate to the world in a very relational way. It's all about relationships, it's all about feelings, basically. And it's not like I have no access to like structures and numbers and stuff, but it doesn't come to me naturally. And what I found when I was interacting with Susanna is like everything that like what I said, she was like able to automatically turn into some kind of like system and structure. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. It's like, oh, I say words and then someone makes sense of it, and now we have a product.
Pretty much.
And so
Yeah,
I
I
don't know if you want to say something about that in your experience of it, Susanna.
Yeah, I feel like, I do bring kind of a systems thinking to almost everything, including my creativity. And to me, it enhances it, not takes away from it. But I know other people, it takes away from it, and they get really like spooked out by it. But I love spreadsheets. I love organizing things. My songwriting book is a big fat Evernote where everything is tagged and put into separate notebooks. And I have a system even for that and for releasing music. Um, and I think I bring something that a lot of creatives need, which is that marriage between kind of the more intuitive, uh, big picture visioning with the tactical and practical. And I kind of use like I like to think that I turn spreadsheets into its own art form, but
I would agree. Like
Yeah.
I was like a point where I was like I've done a whole, but in preparing for this, I was like we had like our list of things to do,
Yeah.
and though I knew there were like a couple of things that I was forgetting, and I messaged Sana. I was like, "What have I missed?" And she sent me like a screenshot of like, I mean, it was really simple, but it was like color coded. There was my column, there was Zana's column, there was like tick boxes. I was like, "Whoa!" I was like operating off of napkins.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's why we work really well together is because, an artist who may be intimidated by the structures, might need somebody with structures on their team. But if somebody is too stuck in the logistics of things and not actually working on the creative, they might need you on their team on their side. And I want to interrupt real quick. I just got a message from somebody who responded on Eventbrite, but only got to Rafi's Instagram, and the Instagram isn't quite working right now. So I want to make sure people have the link to at least the YouTube or Rafi's Facebook. So if you want to, let's see, log in real quick to your Eventbrite and send a message to people
Yes.
with the
Yeah,
links.
let's do that.
Yeah,
So
go.
while I'm doing that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience of accountability buddies?
Yeah.
Because and I'll share mine a little bit as well, but you go first.
Okay, great, great. So again, I am with ADHD. I have the that in my superpower and kryptonite going on for me. And for me, what's really been helpful in a lot of different ways is this idea of body doubling. And it is when I left my 9 to 5 and no longer had the work to show up for at this time and this place with these duties and this boss looking over my shoulder, I was like, yes, freedom. And then maybe that was a little too much freedom. So, what has actually really helped me is to find, at the time I was a new freelancer, this is back in 2014, I found a co working space in Oakland that I was in the Bay Area at the time, and really felt at home, really felt like, oh, this is a place where more individual, smaller businesses can kind of gather and get that feel and get that structure of that 9 to 5 and get a little more um, discipline. And then I started to attend an in person co working. And then also around that time, there were virtual co working started to be a little bit more of a thing. And I want to say back in 2015 or 2016, that's what I started to do virtual co working. And amongst kind of around that time, there was a platform that emerged called FocusMate that helped pair people together um, in just a body doubling virtual way. So a body double is essentially I just need somebody there so that I can be more present and more focused on what I'm doing. Um, so FocusMate came out and it was kind of this tool that rocked my world because all of a sudden now I could just book a time on my calendar and have somebody, anybody from around the world, pair up with me over video. And then, so body doubling is basically, I don't require you to do much of anything. You just sit there during this time and I'm busy doing whatever I do. And that was really effective. And then while I was still in the physical co-working space, I was actually going through an entrepreneur program where I had a coach. And that was also incredible to have somebody to just talk with and get feedback for and get advice. And we together created to dos for the week. And it was really ideal because not only did I have the focused one on one, in depth accountability partner in my coach, but I also had the generalized body doubling, like just get a human in front of my face so that I can focus. So with that, the 1-2 punch of that really helped me build my own freelance practice, and I got started from that. So accountability partnership has changed my life, and having so many of them over the years, whether it's a coach, a teacher, a friend, a fellow creative, I got a sense of what really made a great accountability partnership. And I got a sense of what made me a good accountability partner to somebody. So that's where, from all of that, plus through that entrepreneurship program, I actually ended up becoming a teacher some years later through it. And I taught after, running my freelance business for, I think it was about 8 or 9 years at that time. Finally had the experience to go back and give back and be that business coach to other starting freelancers. And that was just phenomenal to become like the professional accountability partner that I received from that same program. By the way, it's called Uptima, Uptima. And I think if you're in the Bay Area, Boston, possibly New York, that program is available if you are a freelancer and want to get involved. But I think it's location based. Anyway, so that's where I got really excited about accountability partnerships, and then recently I put together what's called the Accountabilibuddy bundle. If you could say that 3 times fast.
I
Um,
tried. I couldn't say it 3 times in a row.
accountability.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and just put together a guide and some scripts to use and some prompts that your accountability partner can use on a regular basis to like dive in, plus a couple extra options for how to work together. And I had a lot of fun putting that thing together. Yeah.
Nice. And so, I mean, so I'll just share a little bit about my experience of accountability buddies is actually pretty similar. So, um, for a while, I've been kind of familiar with the idea of body doubling, and then from a professional standpoint, I think a few years ago, just before or during the pandemic, I came across an organization called Flown, where you could attend co-working sessions. And I'd never really done that virtually before, but I'd always experienced, having to go somewhere, like having to go to a cafe or to a library, and just knowing that there are other people around you who are also focusing, also doing work, was quite an effective way for me. And that's pretty much how I managed to do my degree, by frequenting local cafes. And I met one of my best friends that way, actually. And but it wasn't until the pandemic hit that it became this like formalized online thing, and I was amazed at how well it worked as a virtual thing. And beyond that, since 2018, I've been participating with a transformational organization called Concord Institute, which is based in London. And I would say that 80-90% of my coaching training I've had through the organization by being a coach. And on a lot of our programs that I've been a coach on, we often implement that the participants have buddies to keep them accountable for doing the basic things that they need to do throughout our programs. And so that concept's kind of been ingrained in me. And after a while, I could also start seeing how you can not necessarily, there's a real distinction that I want to make between an accountability buddy a friend and a coach. They're like completely different
Yes.
relationships. And because a coach takes responsibility for you in a particular way, you know, your commitment is matched by them 10x, and the level of holding that they will provide for you isn't something that you can or should expect from an accountability buddy.
Yes.
And yet, an accountability buddy isn't just your friend either. And and over the last couple of days, they actually made a series of posts to talk about this, because for me, and you can chime in about your own kind of like distinctions, but there are three
Mhm.
key components, or three main criteria that you want to look for um, in an accountability buddy. The first thing is that they care more about you and your commitment to your creative work than you feeling good or feeling nice or
Feeling
feeling
happy.
better.
Yeah. Mhm.
Whereas, like, with friendships, you might give somebody a call and, tell them you're having a bad day. You go to the pub, you have a glass of wine or a pint of beer, and you kind of ruminate about how awful it all is. And then you go home and nothing's done about it, which is fine. That's actually like a very necessary part of the process. And people do need that interaction and that sounding board to just be able to vent. But that's not your accountability buddy. That's your friend.
Yeah.
And the second criteria is that their primary job is really to witness you and to listen to you in such a way where you yourself can hear when you're just messing around and not doing what you said you're going to do, as opposed to actually, am I creating goals that are completely ridiculous and untenable and I'm never going to meet? And in that situation, a coach would help you like dig around as to why you're doing that, why are you self-sabotaging, whereas your accountability buddy wouldn't necessarily or
Mhm.
shouldn't necessarily do that. They're just there for it to listen, like literally just listen deeply and not a lot else. And and in so doing, you're empowered to take care of yourself in a way. And the third criteria I would add, well, part of the second criteria is that in that witnessing, there's not like a judgment, and there's not like a berating of you if you haven't done what you said you're going to do.
Yeah.
So, and I hope and I intend to demonstrate that over the next 6 weeks, because Susanna and I are going to literally be broadcasting our goals. We're going to be broadcasting our f ups. We're going to be broadcasting our accomplishments, and literally we will be checking in as if we were in private, just in front of you
Mhm.
guys. And so you can really see like how that dynamic works. And the third criteria for what makes a good accountability buddy is um I kind of forgot what it was. I have to look it up now. Do you remember what I said?
Oh gosh. I think I do. Hold
Oh,
on.
that's it. Yeah, they're a good energetic match for you, which we
That's
talked
it.
quite a bit about earlier. Like, we are one of the reasons I suggested that we do this is because you are that kind of person. You're exactly what I'm not, in the best possible way. And if you're looking to find an accountability buddy for yourself, for those who are listening, you know, really listen out for what you need. Like, do you need somebody to bring you structure? Do you need somebody to check in on you every other day to say, hey, what you doing? Do you need short deadlines? And do you need to break down your tasks to such mini levels and incrementally so that you can get it done? Or are you someone who literally just wants to be left alone for the week and then tell somebody what you've done? And it's actually enough to just know that there's someone on your side.
Mhm. And
And
and I'm
go on.
curious if anybody in the comments has a particular style of if they need a lot more structure, like a lot more daily check-ins and things, or if they just need one touch point a week. Drop it in the comments and I'll put it up on the screen. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. And also there's variations of that, right? And some weeks you need more of one thing and the other. And so having a good energetic match with somebody just means that all of it comes naturally rather than you having to kind of like mentally figure out a lot of stuff, because you kind of just get each other. Even when, I say a lot of stuff and Susanna kind of like nods, and I'm like, I don't know that that would have made sense to anybody else. But I'm glad I don't have to explain that.
Right. Right,
um
exactly.
so that one's hard to quantify, but it's probably the most important out of the three, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I would absolutely agree, and I did a presentation in one of those summits and bundles. Big shout out to Jenny and Meredith who just had the Make It Happen summit, and part of that presentation was also outlining like what is an accountability buddy really um, there to do and support, and what makes them a good one. And I remember two bullet points in particular connected to what you're saying is one, don't be an asshole, but also two, don't be super laid back and cool and chill about things either. Now I'm a native Californian. That's my native uh MO. I just like, yeah, yeah, you do you. Oh, I love that for you. That's kind of the California talk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
With an accountability partner, and when I'm entering into that, I have a lot more boundaries around it and a lot more, I give extra um, support in that way. Oh, I see we've got a comment here. Let's take a look. Um, Definitely difference between what I need and what I want. I
yeah.
probably need regularly more frequent check-ins to pick up my pace, but prefer more spaced out since I don't have much momentum. That's very interesting. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Rafi?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is that there are also different ways of checking in, right? Like what we're going to be demonstrating and broadcasting live is our weekly video face-to-face check-in. And some people prefer to have that more regularly. One of my coaching clients gets two a week, because that's what works for them. But you can check in without it being like a long ass video call. Like you can send a voice note, and you can have your accountability partner just send you a text. Say you meet on a Monday, you want a text on Thursday to say, hey, did you do what you said you're going to do, or how's it going? And so you can create something that has both elements. And I can't quite help my coaching head, but I would also I would also kind of, for yourself, just kind of like explore what do you need to build momentum. Because when you say, oh, since I don't have much momentum, I think momentum is one of the things that you can definitely build, and it doesn't take a lot. If you find yourself taking off, like saying to your accountability buddy, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z this week, and you take them off, no matter how small those tasks are. One of those tasks could be to email somebody. It takes 30 seconds. But if you say to someone you're going to do it and they hold you accountable and you've done it, that the kind of the positive feedback loop that that creates is quite big, and you can build on that. And so the week after, the bigger task doesn't feel quite so big. And so, yeah, I think you may find that you can build momentum quite quickly, without as much friction, and get a nice bridge between what you want and what you need.
Yeah, yeah, there's also something to that, like the quick task, the quick win to get
Yeah.
on the on ramp. I kind of call it a task kindling, because especially for those of us with ADHD, I could look at a task and it just says like, I don't know, work on podcast. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that sounds great. I'm not gonna even look at that until
Yeah.
5 months down the road.
Yeah.
But a task kindling is you break off a piece of that. Let's imagine it's a big, chunk of wood that you want to actually start a flame. You break off either a piece of that or you go grab some paper or smaller little
Mm,
bits just to get the fire going. And a
mm,
task kindling is just you break off a piece of that, a 5-minute task.
yeah.
That is, I'm going to go start on my podcast. it's the 5 minute task is I'm going to decide on the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm going to decide on, I'm going to just decide on the visual of it. I don't have to find it. I don't have to build it. I don't have to create it in Canva or whatever. I'm just going to
Mm,
say, I know it's going to have a picture of me. Okay, great.
mm,
The next 5 minute task is I'm going to call my photographer friend. And then the next minute, like get the kindling going so you can start
mm.
that roaring fire. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think the only other thing that I would add to that, to take the same fire metaphor, is like once you have your kindling, you kind of want to have like your structures, right? So
Yeah.
you want to shape it in a way where there's blah blah blah. Anyway, and and I think for me that those structures, the infrastructure that keeps everything going, is also like the consistency.
Mhm.
So I'll talk about this in a moment, because I'm going to introduce you to something called the three things focus formula. And having something that you do that creates consistency is going to be really important, because it's like an anchor. Kindling can kind of burn out quite quickly,
Exactly.
and you
Exactly.
need that bridge between that initial starter to like a roaring fire. And that would be like the consistent thing. So for example, with the podcast, it's like, okay, you do your 5 minute things, that gives you a little bit of energy. And then you go, okay, well, what can I do like on a consistent thing? Can I do 20 minutes um, of recording once every week, for instance? That's consistent. That's consistency.
Mhm. Mhm.
It doesn't have to be 3 hours a week. It's just 20 minutes once a week, every week.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and to add to that as well, because sometimes that can also be, especially for the ADHD, I gotta like represent my ADHD. Sometimes
Mm.
that consistency is the harder
Yeah,
piece, but if we can get it to be like, can you be consistent with something that's a 10-minute task? Can you
yeah,
be consistent? That's something that it's still kindling, and sometimes you just have to work with your brain on what it is.
yeah,
um, Something that is relatively like consistent, so you build that habit, and it becomes a little more part of just the routine that you
yeah,
do.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so in this 6 week series, we're mostly going to be focusing on the check-in component of
Yeah.
accountability buddies. And so we'll literally start demonstrating that in a few moments.
Mhm.
But is there anything else that you want to add, Susanna, about the other components of an accountability buddy relationship?
Yeah, I think it does help depending on what your goals are to have an accountability buddy that again is an energetic match, as you were saying, and that also kind of wants, if not the same but similar things, so you can relate a little bit more. And I think it's actually really funny. Rafi and I are in different time zones. You're in the
Oh,
UK,
yeah.
I'm in Pacific. I
Yeah.
usually recommend picking somebody who has at least complementary time zones. And first off, this is like evening for you and morning for me. I am a morning creative person, and I know it's super weird. But if it's, as long as it's complementary, it works. And because we both have communities across the world, actually us having different time zones helps our communities out better because we can cover more people within that.
Yeah.
So I also recommend with an accountability partner, I do recommend one-on-one, me personally. Maybe you can have a three person group, but keeping it as small and direct as possible so that you can be seen. I know that there are other like accountability groups where it's just kind of, here's an open Zoom room and it's a co-working, you can join and whatever.
Mm.
And that could be really useful and helpful for people in a certain way, but I don't call it accountability really, because you're not being, at least you got to be at least just a little bit vulnerable and visible. And
I would
I
agree. Yeah.
I find that in groups of 4 or more, it's easy to be like, oh, I can't make it this week, or next week. Okay, I'm just gonna peace out. It's a
And
little
it's
easier
easy to hide, you'll just
hiding.
not put your hand up until the end, and it's like, oh, we've got 30 seconds, and then you don't do what you just don't participate. And not because you don't want to, obviously you come with a particular intention, but it's easy to hide if that's your nature. It's not mine, but I know I know people do.
Definitely mine.
And so yeah, like nothing wrong at all with group accountability calls, but I think
Right.
that's just a different conversation and a different approach altogether,
Yeah.
which is not this.
Yeah. Group accountability. Like I have my own group accountabilities, and I have my
Yeah,
own one-on-ones, and I have like I personally need like a mix of all of things. But what we're talking about here is real partnership. Like I really see you, and I really care about you, your specific goals, and can talk with you about it.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Okay.
Awesome. So, perhaps we can start with my one of my worksheets in the Accountability Buddy package, and then from there we'll find a project and things to hop on over to your worksheet for
Yeah.
the 3 buckets.
And by the way, while you're setting that up, everybody who's watching on now or the replay, um, if you signed up to RSVP via Eventbrite, you should have, and you will again receive links to these two resources.
Yes.
So Susanna's check-in sheet that you'll see now, and my worksheet as well. So if you haven't already, make sure that you sign up via Eventbrite so that you can get on the mailing list for those things.
Yeah, actually, I think I can flash a little quick QR code in case you haven't signed up, in case you've stumbled on us somehow. Let's see. Let me show that. Well, I set everything up. Is that showing? Show. Click show. Hello. Hi.
Yeah, it's there. I see
Oh,
it.
there it is. Oh, it's up in the corner. I wanna. That's the compact. New tools is fun. I think it's yeah. I think it's right up there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you
So
guys in the chats, if you want to try it out and tell us if it's broken, that would be great.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Please do. Okay, let's hit a button here and see what I can do to share the right tab. Don't share tab audio. That's a little wide. Can I make that a little? Yeah, there we go.
Oh, that's how you do it. Okay, we learned something.
We're learning. Yeah, the Restream is a new software for this particular thing. I'm gonna maybe zoom in a bit and maybe like stretch it out. Let's see how that.
Oh, the Karina says that the QR code went away. So can we make it
Oh,
reappear?
yeah. Let's put that back up. That
There
should
we
be over my
go.
face. There it is. Delicious. Yeah, this is why I like to work with creative weirdos because I can do random shit like that. Okay.
Yeah, you're good. I mean, we're literally live on the whole internet, but you're good.
Yep.
If they don't want to find us, they won't find us because
Yes.
I trust the universe to deliver only what we need.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So we've got this is one of a few different worksheets that I have in that accountability bundle. Um and you're gonna open it up. It's gonna say request edit access. Please don't. Make a copy. That's the key here. And I'm gonna go ahead and make a copy and call it Suzanne plus Rafi! Exclamation point, because I'm like that.
Yay!
And then it's gonna open up in a new tab. I'm gonna share this tab instead so we can, is that the right one? Yeah. Yeah, here we go. All right. So I have inelegantly named this partner one, but I'm just going to go ahead and Rafi, you're it. So Mendoza, and we won't put your personal contact on here, but maybe your business. So we'll do that for later. The date, September 25th, 2024. Also, for those of you who have international partnerships, I always like to spell out the month because at the there was one time I went to Canada. There was a Leonard Cohen exhibit. It said it was open from like I don't know, like 9/6 to whatever, and I'm like, great, I'm in town for that. It was not 9/6. For me, it was 6/9. So I missed it entirely. So I've
Yeah, we're
gotten
not
to
gonna
the
have
habit,
that debate. Right.
of just spelling out the month. Just spell.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So we're gonna do a test run on this, and of course, like we can always adjust, add, or
Yeah.
what have you. But the first question is, Rafi, what area of life do you need accountability for from me?
Oh, yeah. So I mean, there are so many things that I need accountability for. Account,
Accountability. Yeah, I know.
accountability for, and and it. But in the business world, I'm fortunate enough to be members of amazing communities and have mentors and coaches. But one area where I don't necessarily have direct input is my creative practice. And the not so ironic thing is I coach people to establish their creative practice, right? And so for me, this is not only a great opportunity to um, give value to our respective communities, but actually, literally, for me to get what I hold space for with the people that I work with. So I'm
Mm.
very grateful, and my creative practice would be my paintings, and I want to get really specific on the goals. I mean, I might end up answering things as I speak, but to get really specific with this goal is because I mean, just for the benefit of the people who are watching, it's like you can say something like that. It's like, oh, I want to get accountability on my creative practice and make sure that I regularly show up for my art. That's fine. But if I were being really blunt, I'd say, well, make a better goal because it does need to be more specific. And one of the things that I have been kind of ruminating and dreaming about is putting together another art show. The last time that I did one was in 2000 something, 2017, 18, 19, way before the pandemic. And it was a bit of a roller coaster. It was my first and it was my last one. I did it with a friend who I hope he's watching, Sam. He's somewhere, he's a poet, and it was a brilliant collaboration. Um, but we were just unprepared in so many ways. Neither of us had done an art show before, and also we got robbed. so, so they stole our cash tin and our beer. Not the artwork. I don't know what that says about the artwork, but anyway. And so uh, and so I don't want to do that particular version of it, but I do now feel over and healed from the traumatic experience of my
Okay.
last art show, and so I want to do another one. And so to get even more specific with this goal, I would need to give it a date, and you know and a time frame of some kind. And so I'm sure we'll get into that as we keep going through this form.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna also just note, want to give it a date and a time frame. I'll just put.
And while we're saying that, what's stopping me from giving a date is because I've got a gallery in mind that I want to use,
Yep.
and I need to email them. So this is gonna be one of my tasks for this week. I need to email them, book myself in, and put the deposit down, and etc.
Okay. I'm just gonna make that a note, and then as we go down, we'll and book deposit, etc. Um, yeah, as we go down, I'll kind of reorganize it. Okay, now here's a huge one I think so many people kind of skip right over, but it's
Oh yeah, zoom in. That looked good.
oh, good, 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 good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why is this so important to you?
Well, as I kind of alluded to earlier, is this is something that I hold other people accountable to, and so for me to show up with authenticity and integrity in my coaching practice and in my community that I lead, um, I feel it's essential that I practice what I preach. And beyond that, um, as an artist, and why I chose to build a business supporting artists, even though it's not the most obviously lucrative space, um, is I truly 100% believe that, like in 1,000 years time, especially with the advancement of technology and AI, self-expressive creativity is going to be the top currency. And at the moment, societally or culturally, we we kind of value creativity when it's applied to like scientific or technological innovation, which to my mind is less about creativity and more productivity on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have to apply some creativity, but the end goal is very much still about, this kind of has certain linearity and a residue of the industrial revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to make it wrong, it's just part of our evolution as a society and as a species. But as things progress, what I can see and what I can project it for a few hundred years, 1,000 years from now, is that the expressive arts, human self expression, is is what's going to matter. And it's the only thing that's going to matter because everything else will be done for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I can't predict the future, but I'm predicting the future.
Mm-hmm.
And but if my vision that humanity has a chance of staying connected with our own humanity, with each other, with communities, and with our spirits as spiritual beings, then valuing the arts and taking artistic self expression seriously, and I don't mean like seriously with a grim face, but like seriously, like with intention, then that has to start now. And it has to start with me because I'm supporting others to do the same. So that's a long ass answer,
Mm-hmm.
but that's that's why it's important to me.
That's amazing. Now I'm just taking notes, and I'm going to make sure you're shared on this document so you can add,
Sure.
subtract, edit, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, and that's really, in fact, I need to share it with you right now, don't I? But that this piece is something that you can come back to, and your accountability partner can come back to it and remind you of that piece when you're lost in the weeds or you're not motivated a certain week, because
Yeah.
it's going to be this.
Yes,
In fact, let me do
for
that.
sure.
All right. So we want to put together an art show. The bigger piece is, very big. This is like the core of humanity. Now we're breaking a piece off and saying, well, a core of your humanity is art. And a core
Mm,
of a piece of what your art is displaying it and sharing it, and
that's
how you
right.
do that is an art show. So this is like you're breaking off the bigger picture into a smaller chunk, into a smaller chunk, and now we're like boots on the ground. Here's this art show idea, and it takes an email and a deposit to kick it off. That seems so.
That's our kindling.
That's the kindling, exactly.
That's our kindling, yeah.
So, what does success look or feel like for this art show?
Okay. So, like, because I'm a very visual person, so I'll
Yes.
start there.
Great.
And so, in my imagination, I mean, it's a beautiful gallery. It's called the Yard Gallery in Stroud, which is my hometown, and which is so small, I've practically told you my address. And 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 it's a small gallery, but it's just a beautiful space. And I imagine, because I create these like small pieces of artwork, which I'm going to show you.
Yes, please.
Um, so what should I show you? Like they're kind of like this size, and that's what one of them looks like. I
Hmm.
don't know which way it should go. Anyway, and so in my imagination, the whole gallery, all of its walls, and it's like quite angular. It's got loads of like things that stick out in a back room, and so there's loads of walls. It's not just four walls, and so in my imagination, every single wall is covered inch to inch with these tiny pieces, and people can buy them for an affordable price. And oh, excuse me, and I don't know what price yet, but like something like, oh yeah, I've got that on me, here you go, kind of a price. And and people can literally just take it off the walls and buy it that way, which means I'm going to be organizing and reorganizing the walls like hopefully every 5 minutes, because people will be buying it.
I love it.
So that's like the kind of like the visual and the experience of it and the dynamicness that I want to create. And the other goal for me to make it feel like it's a success is that I at least make back the cost of the gallery, as the first goal. But then the real goal is to double that and make 100% profit, return on investment, or by selling affordable art, which it's not
Yeah.
usual. We're going low ticket, but it's also an experiment. So like I don't see this as that it would ever be like a failure, but
Yeah.
this would feel like, oh yeah, that would be a success.
Okay. Love it. Make double what you invested.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll also note it's an experiment. So, because it's an experiment, there's really no way to fail except for not doing it at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. Unless it doesn't happen. Awesome. Awesome. I love that. So, what stumbling blocks do you think could get in the way for you?
Yeah. So I mean, it's quite ambitious because it's a lot of little pieces, even though they're small. And one of the other things I need to do this week is to audit how many of these I already have
Mm.
and get a realistic sense of like how many pieces do I actually need. I
Mm-hmm.
might have to go to the gallery and measure stuff as well with an actual ruler.
Mm-hmm.
Shocker for anyone who knows me. Ruler, tape measure, I don't know. How do you measure stuff? Like that's big. Anyway, um and and so I could easily overwhelm myself by saying, "Oh, I need to create 3,000 pieces," which, and then like I'll divide that into like how many, how many per day per week, and then just be like, "Oh, well, this is impossible." Go into a corner and cry. And so I think getting a realistic measure of what's actually required, what I already have available, and then and then really breaking that down and looking at, well, what does this look like
Mhm.
week by week and day by day, because the focus for this partnership is my creative practice, but nothing happens in a vacuum, which
Exactly.
we'll talk about a little bit later with my um 3 things stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Okay. So you see a stumbling block could be that you can get overwhelmed if it well let's say the gallery it does take 3,000 pieces. That
Mm.
then what? Like will you reduce it down to 1,000 or 500 or like will you if the number is too big what do you think you would do?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's like a couple of ways of addressing that, right? You either make the number smaller, which means that the gallery won't be covered every inch, but you
Mhm.
would create like a frame around it so it still makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, and I may have to um, also it depends as well on when I can get a date in for. In my own intention, in my imagining, this will be spring 2025.
Okay.
Um, but if I had longer, then I'd have longer to do the stuff, etc. So it's a little hard to say exactly what I would do until I have the measure, which is why. And the reason I say that's my stumbling block, because it's always my stumbling block, because I just do stuff and hope and like. And it's like, oh, and then everything else is made up, and then I have an excuse to be overwhelmed because that's like my favorite pastime.
Ah, I'm laughing with you because
Yeah,
yes, I'm gonna write that down.
it's
I
like talk
have
about self
an
sabotage.
excuse to be overwhelmed. I recognize that, resonate with that,
Yeah,
and I see it in myself and in my clients.
yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
and I think the reason this partnership is really cool is because both of us have clients that we're kind of, coaching, but aren't getting coached ourselves. And
Yeah,
it's like it's unrealistic to expect a like for example a physical trainer to physically train themselves. It's unrealistic.
yeah,
It's unrealistic to expect a therapist to do therapy for
exactly.
themselves, even though they might think they might do, or somebody
Yeah,
might think they might do. It's unrealistic. And
mm.
so, like, you saying that, I'm like, yeah. I
Yeah,
love finding excuses of why I can't do
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
And oftentimes, especially again with my ADHD, I want to do all of the things
All
and
at
then
once.
all at
No.
once bite off way more than I can chew and then realize, oh, I didn't do any of them. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I feel that so hard. Love it.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Okay, so I realized I kind of asked the next question in a weird way, but this next question is how do you see yourself getting past those stumbling blocks? And of course, over the course of like the next six
yeah,
weeks, we'll have a
yeah, yeah.
better idea. But at least initially, how do you see yourself getting past some of these stumbling blocks?
I mean, honestly, actually, like talking to you and just saying, like, look, here's the vision, here's the goal, and I'm gonna come back to you with a date of when I've booked it, and I'm with measures of how many pieces it would take to do what I want to do with the space, and then just say like, like what, and kind of help ask you to help me think through the steps and actually just follow the steps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but it's easier said than done, because when you're kind of like too deep into something, it's kind of really hard to step back and go, okay, well, what are the step 1, 2, 3, and 4 here?
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then that's very related to
Yeah,
this last question. If you fall off track, how do you want me to help?
yeah, I think certainly I would want you to keep me accountable to the steps and just say like, hey, look, it, on a practical sense, it's like this week you said you were going to do these 3 things. Did you do them? That will kind of like come a standard, but also it's like reminding me of like, okay, well, can we break down this step any further? And like, are you being delusional about your goals this week? And really just like asking me that question, because like I am delusional as a person. It's amazing I'm here at all. Maybe I'm here at all because I'm delusional. Like, I mean, but like, sense of reality is very loose.
Yeah. Yeah. Are those the exact words that you want me to ask? Because I could absolutely ask them.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It's like, look,
Hi, Rafi.
are
How
you
are you
being
doing?
serious?
Are you being delusional?
Because like, and like, and you're free to ask that as I create my goals, but also after when I didn't meet my goals.
Okay. Yes.
And it's like, well, were the goals insane and set up for failure?
Mhm.
And you know and so here's a point, actually. Like, if you were a coach, you would ask, well, why are you setting yourself up for failure, and you dig deeper. But in this relationship, just to make that distinction, we won't necessarily go there. But it's just like, you know, yeah, are you being
Yeah,
delusional is
yeah.
enough.
Uh, okay, and the coach,
I don't think we need to write that. It was just
okay,
something I
okay.
wanted to point out because we were talking about those distinctions earlier in the call.
I can at least put like, don't ask why, because that's a note to me. This section right here is kind of a note to me that I'll
Sure.
refer back to.
Yeah.
Um, Great. Awesome. Anything else you want to kind of document before we get started here?
No, I think I'm good. I'm just wondering because obviously, like, we're in time and we'd
Right.
intended to go through all of these things for both of us.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
I'm wondering, what do you think? Shall we do? Because we're on the hour, and I'm happy to carry on. And I think I don't know who else is here, but there's a replay if you need to go
There
and come back.
is, yes. There's a replay. It looks like there's about 4 or 5 people who are joining us live, and understood if you do have to go. And I'm also looking at my calendar and being like, am I being delusional? And let's see. Um, just making sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can go to another 15 minutes, maybe another
Yeah.
20
So
minutes.
I'm thinking instead of going to, we have two options. We either stick with me and then go through
Let's
the
do
three things focus formula, or do your form and then do the three things for both of us next week.
that. Yeah, let's do the three things. Let's do your three things now, and then
Yeah.
maybe next week we do my first meeting
Yeah. We'll
worksheet
do the
and
same thing for you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna stop this screen. And if you've got your three things,
Yes. Let me just work out my buttons.
yeah, if
Because I have two screens, but I think it looks really weird when I'm looking off to the side.
yeah,
So,
or I can also pull it up on my end if you want.
Uh, oh yeah, because you have it, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
But let me see how I can do this. You'll just have to cope with me looking a little bit odd. I
Okay.
think you
Yep.
can.
We
Um,
can.
you can.
I ate a
And
QR code earlier. I think we can handle odd.
yeah, is it showing? Am I sharing?
Oh, I have to hit a button here. I have
Uh
to
huh. Okay.
allow. Isn't that funny? Okay. Show on stream. There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you zoom in?
Yeah. Yeah. So can I zoom in? Yes. Can you
Yeah.
see?
Yeah, is it possible to get rid of that toolbar? Yeah, that's
Yeah. Okay, so I actually made this fill-inable for you, but my preference is actually to do it on paper. And I managed to get some sample prints, like a whole load of them,
Ooh.
coming to the post today. So I was very excited about that. If you saw my story
Awesome.
earlier, but so here's the thing: like in within the accountability buddy partnership, you have a focus, which in as we just went through, it would be my art show,
Yeah.
but week by week your life is happening, and your creative practice or whatever your goal is for your accountability partner doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Mhm.
And so this week, for instance, this week that I'm just having, my focus is actually managing my energy a little bit, or a lot, because I'm having a very intense week that
Mm,
starts at like 6:30 a.m. and ends. Today's my earliest ending, and we will complete probably at like 7:15, 7:30 my time.
mhm,
And most nights I'm finishing at like 11 just because of various commitments and fun
mm,
things as well.
mhm,
But I
mhm.
do need to manage my energy, and I also expended a lot of it last weekend to traveling to London and back.
Mm,
So that
mhm,
would be my focus. And so within the week, then I recommend that you have three things that you're focusing on that isn't necessarily going to have to be about you're in this instance, it's health and well-being is one of the areas, right? And I think Susanna calls it life buckets.
Yeah. Yeah.
um but for instance, this week my focus in relation to my health and well-being is to take a long walk in nature with my partner. In nature with Tom, who's my partner, and Leo, who's my dog, interchangeable, um, at the weekends. And that would be to do with my health and energy recovery, but as well as relationships, right? And this will support me in being able to achieve my goals. Particularly somebody like me, I have a propensity to become unwell when I get overwhelmed as well. It kind of like comes out as physical unwellness. And then there's work, which is another major part of your life. And so my work goal this week is to complete resources for community membership library, for instance. And so that would be like my work thing. And the other part of the three things for the week, um, since I've done this, is to get a date and pay deposit for gallery. So that's like the one big thing that I'm gonna write, because this week my focus is managing my energy. Next week my focus might be creativity and this particular project, in which case two of the three things will be to do with the gallery.
Got it.
But but because life doesn't happen in a vacuum, you want to I use this structure to be able to both stick to my goals and take care of my life and myself and not compromise anything.
I love that.
And so I like to do this day by day. I try to do them like all at once for the week, because and then all that happens is I change everything. Because like you wake up in the morning and you have to kind of like really decide like, well, what works for you, what do you need to do. And so for me, now that I'm declaring that, and you do more than three things in a week as well, obviously,
Of course. Yeah.
but like the things that are going to happen anyway. So if you've got a date in the calendar, like a networking event, you don't need to write that here because that's going to happen.
Right. Right.
If you going to work, doesn't have to be here because that's going to happen anyway. But if you're self-employed or you run a business, there may be certain things that you notice you've been putting off for like weeks now. And so you might want to put that here. And so you have three things that are like priority that wouldn't happen otherwise if you didn't focus on them.
Gotcha.
And
So,
go for it.
just so you're putting down your tasks, your to dos that you're going to do, or are you logging tasks that you have
This is going to do.
going to do? Got it.
And so we're on Wednesday. So if I were to write about tomorrow, I would put so I'm 2 weeks behind, nearly 3 weeks behind on a course that I'm on called Explode with Des Dobreva. It's a business course. And so I have some tasks from the last 2 or 3 weeks that I haven't completed. And so I'm going to put Explode tasks tomorrow. Right. And I also know that the gallery that I want is closed Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so I'm going to make sure that I email Lynn, who owns it, gallery availability. Okay. And so by the time that we next meet, I want to make sure that she's gotten back to me and that I've booked myself in because I said I would.
Yeah.
Right. And tomorrow as well, I want to make sure, because my focus this week is managing my energy, and I know that I haven't eaten well this week. I want to make sure that I cook lunch and take afternoon stretch, for instance. I'm kind of making this up because we're kind of and so here this is important. This particular part is important because not only is this work, but this is me working on my business rather than in my business. So I'm gonna tag that business rather than work. because I'm not just like working on stuff that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be for my creativity, and this would be for my well-being. And so obviously those aren't the only buckets of life. There's relationship, there's finances,
Yeah.
etc.
There's
um
recreation. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so does that make sense of as to how this
Yeah.
works?
That actually, could you scroll up to your big three things?
Yeah,
So what actually is interesting is that the left one, that's the health and energy. The middle one is the work. The right one is creativity. And my brain immediately was like, oh, I'm just gonna put like different like tasks beneath it. So everything on the right hand side is the
yeah,
creative stuff. Which actually that's super interesting. So you're
yeah,
breaking each day out into three tasks,
yeah,
and for me, I'm going to use this worksheet to kind of like categorize it. Like the left column is all going to be my health and energy, just to make sure I'm prioritizing exactly what I need
yeah.
done. And then
And this
all
is
the
why
way,
Susanna is a complementary energy, because I just like whatever, I just write stuff
I
wherever,
love it.
whenever, and she's like, "Oh, look, there's a system."
You already made a system. You didn't even know it. It's so great.
Yeah. So, but
However
yeah, and
your
look,
brain works. Yeah, I love
yeah.
it.
And like another week, my focus would be like, like 1 week before the gallery, like this, like there will be nothing else going on other than gallery stuff,
Yeah, that makes sense.
right? So
Yeah,
your
makes
week
sense. Yeah.
changes every time. And um so I really wanted to incorporate this because I really want us to get that it's like your goals has to work with your life.
Yes, exactly. That's
And
exactly what I teach, and I want to make sure that people are looking at their lives holistically and not just as like
a
task
task
completing
list. Yeah.
machines,
Yes,
like because
exactly.
there can be a toxicity to the overproductive life.
Yeah.
Like there is a toxicity to that.
Yeah,
And
productivity junkies are junkies.
yeah,
Trust me.
it's
I
still
was M1. But so it's like, yeah, like, so this is something that I've kind of like developed. No, it didn't look like this. In fact, I created this specifically for this because I was just like,
yeah,
what do I actually do to take care of this? And it turns out there was a system to what I did.
yeah.
I just didn't know about it until Susanna asked.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. I also love that the worksheet that you have is flexible enough to be just like I'm just gonna write things down, and then
Yeah.
also structured enough for people like me who are like, oh, I'm gonna have neat
Yeah.
categories and I'm gonna be satisfied because I have the
Because
categories.
you have your things. And
Yeah,
if you're a pen and paper kind of person,
yeah, that's cool
and
too. Yeah.
which I when it comes to tasks I am, because like I don't need to refer to them in like about the past. It's like if you change your mind about something that you wrote, you literally just put post-it on it and then you're
Yeah.
done.
See, it's a beautiful system. Very
Yeah.
flexible, very flowy, and still a system. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Love it.
So like I said earlier, if you haven't signed up to RSVP yet, you can do that now. The QR is up there. And when you do, you'll automatically get like a welcome email. And you can download Susanna's worksheet for setting up your accountability buddy and this worksheet. And
Mhm.
um, do we, it's one, so we have like 3 minutes for questions if anybody has any.
Mhm. Yeah, I did see that, Corinna pointed out, rightfully so. So the QR code works, but takes you to signing up to the October 2nd session. The Eventbrite does close signups as soon as like we start each session. Go ahead and sign up for whatever is up there. You should still be able to get the
Yes.
automatic email, and we'll
Yeah.
also send out reminders right beforehand, and it should give you both of our worksheets and some
Yeah.
links. Um,
And if anything isn't working at all, you can just send us a message. It's Susanna on YouTube, me on Facebook and Instagram if we can ever get it to work, and
yes.
we'll be on hand. We're
Yeah,
not so important that we don't reply to stuff.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And I usually keep at least at least my phone on over here just in case anybody's messaging me, and I can,
Oh, that's a
yeah,
good idea.
you can DM me, you can email me. Maybe I should put that up on the screen. What's the best way to get a hold of you, Rafi?
Rafi at co-create.space.
Eight dot space. Let's see if I can get that up on the screen real quick. How?
Will the next session be on Facebook as well from Malen? Malen is my mom, by the way,
Oh,
if you haven't already. So she's being very supportive. And the next session will also be on Facebook. And we're going to try and get it up on Instagram. Um, no promises because we don't understand what's wrong.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did a trial run with my other account, and it worked just fine. We have no idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then Karina also has a comment here. Not a question, but a comment. Really appreciate you made the distinction between coach, accountability buddy, and friend. Thanks for that. Exactly, exactly. I think sometimes a friend or a family member or a partner just too close. Their job is already to be supportive and want you to be happy, healthy, whole, and all the things. Your accountability buddy has a different job, and it's much better if they're a little more on the outside, a little more
Yeah.
on the
And
distance.
it's not like, like I would say that Susanna is my friend, but it's like accountability partner first, then friend.
Yeah.
And like once you and like there are certain friendships, like I don't know if she's here, she'll probably watch this at some point. She was in the comments in Facebook earlier, Philippa James, who um I consider one of my best friends. I don't know if I've ever told her that, but now you know. And and we've worked together both in a transformational space, also in business. We work together, so we share clients, because she's the other half of my design business, which is distinct from co-creates. And at the same time, she's my friend. Like if I needed somewhere to stay, I would call her. If I needed to cry, I would call her, and vice versa. But our relationship is primarily in the context of accountability partner. And so there are some friends that you can do that with, but I think they're few and far between. And for example, Malen is here. I would not use her as my accountability partner, because she'll just be like, she'll see me overwhelmed. She'll be like, oh, here, have a cake. And I'll
Right.
take the cake, like, do you know what
Yes,
I
you
mean? And
will.
it's
Like,
and that
yes,
and
you
that's
will.
and
Yeah.
that's correct. Like that's nurturing
Yeah.
for our relationship, which is my
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah,
Yeah, I think our relationships, many of us like have to wear different hats in our different
yeah.
relationships. And sometimes a hat is more strong in one area. Debbie
Sorry.
Williams, how do I get a cake friend?
So Malen's on Facebook. You can just DM her and ask for a cake. I'm sure you will get one, even though she doesn't know who you are.
Does she ship internationally?
Oh, Malen says come over.
Amazing. All right, ticket to Stroud is purchased.
Nice.
That's great. That's awesome. I also want a cake friend. So yeah, if you ship to California, I will gladly accept cake. Amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. Any other last thoughts, parting words? I do have a couple of last thoughts and parting words myself, but
I
you have
mean, feel
anything?
free if you're watching this on the replay, or if we just leave before you get to type your thing. Just type it in the comments, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook, and we will respond to you in the comments. And just want to say this really good. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Mum. and and yeah, so just put in your comments and we'll respond to you. And if you want to ask something and it's a little bit private but you want to talk to us about it, then just email one of us, or DM one of us privately, and we will get back to you.
Awesome. And I did want to give a couple of shout outs to some things I've got here. Let me see if I could do a QR code for this one. Yeah, itty bitty right there, but I'll also put it in the chat. This Saturday, uh,
Mm.
every um, every quarter, I hate calling them quarters, but it's also not exactly seasons. It's every 3 months. I have a workshop specifically designed for creatives who just hate planning in general and would rather eat nails than plan. Um, so I designed these quick check-in workshops on your bigger vision, what you want to be doing to keep up the momentum throughout the year. I have every year, every New Year's, I have a big retreat, and the quarterlies are just reminding people what we covered in the retreat. But I ended up opening it up to everybody because it is very useful to get focused, get some visions and priorities kind of broken down about every 3 months. I personally hate planning beyond 3 months because can't handle it. But I got some projects that are coming up that really demand that I do more long term planning. So with the creative spirals, I want I currently have ways to check in with your big goals yearly, quarterly, weekly, and then daily if you use our Focus Mate group. Um, and this is coming up for our quarter 4, which everybody should wear a business suit to this meeting. But I do have it this Saturday. It's 9:30 a.m. Pacific, so it's still reasonable for those of you out across the Atlantic. And I do that every quarter. I also want to give one more shout out to anybody who is looking for their own accountability partners. Make sure that you have signed up for the Eventbrite, because we'll be, Rafi will announce her community, and I'm also going to be launching a Accountabilibuddy matchmaking service as a part of my growing Accountability bundle. And that will be launching soon. I keep saying the word soon because that's also another thing I need to structure out and timeline a bit. But
We can talk about that next week.
yeah, we're gonna talk about that word soon. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
so as we get going with this 6 week um, accountability buddy partnership, that's going to be announced. And I can't wait to start playing matchmaker with folks. And this is just a free service that I'm just doing and emailing people manually and being that person is going to go really well with this person and this person. And here's your accountability bundle. And then if you want extra services, extra things, extra community, we'll talk about Rafi's community coming up.
Nice. And so just very few words from me. I'll drop a link to this as well. So my community is, I'm hoping, so this is my plan, is to open the community to the people who are on the wait list, which will make them founding members, which means you get to have a heavily discounted monthly rate for life if you become a founding member. And I'm going to open that membership the day after the final episode of Accountability Buddies in Action. So if you are interested in that, I'll speak more about it in other calls when we have more time. But in the meantime, I'm going to put the waitlist link in the links below. I'm doing that now. And click on there. It should tell you the information that you need to know to see if this is for you. And if it is, join the waitlist. You've got nothing to lose. And when it opens, you'll be able to join for only £27 per month instead of 65, which it will be when I open to the public in January. So if you like what we're doing and you are looking for a community of powerful creatives who turn vision into reality, then now's the time to sign up to that.
Yes, amazing. And I got a little QR code up here. I'm learning the buttons in the Restream program, and I know we'll hopefully figure out how to do our Instagram live stream by next time. But
Yeah.
this has been amazing. Thanks for staying a little longer than normally planned. And also, thank you. He says, just want to say this is really good. Appreciate that. Uh, Please send me cake. continue, continue to feed us compliments and cake, and we'll be good.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing. All right. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Anything else? Oh, fantastic. There's my workshop. Yep. Awesome. All
Thank
right.
you, Susanna, and thank you everybody for tuning in. If you're watching this on the replay, just tag replay. What's your address, Valencia? It's
I'm gonna hit you up, and
she is serious. I'm telling you, she doesn't
I
mess
also
around.
am serious. Debbie, if you want to get in on this.
So yeah, if you're watching this on the replay, you can still get cake, I'm sure. Just look for Malen. And yeah, just tag replay so that we know that you're tuning in after. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Susanna, for a successful kickoff of
Yes,
Accountability
absolutely.
Buddies in action.
Accountabilibuddies in action. I gotta practice that. Amazing. All right. Take care, everybody. Take care.